Tonight for dinner, we are going to make a chicken burrito skillet. You can make this with ground beef. So if you would like to sub that out, maybe you've already got ground beef ready to go, thawed, planned on the menu, whatever it is, you can definitely do this exact same thing, just sub out the chicken for ground beef. We're gonna be using canned tomatoes again because I'm telling you, there are so many versatile ways to use canned tomatoes. But before we do anything else, I have these tomatoes that I actually picked from the garden yesterday. I wanna go ahead and cut these into quarters. These are probably gonna be more for garnish, but I wanna go ahead and cut them before we get our cutting board dirty with chicken that we're gonna be chopping up into, or dicing into bite-sized pieces. So we'll just have a little bowl here that we can cut these. Like I said, I'm just cutting them, I'm just quartering them, and then I'm gonna put them here in this bowl. Today has been, you could probably tell by the way that I look. Today has been one of those days where we had no intention of leaving the house. There were some household chores that we really needed to get done. I've done excessive amounts of laundry, some editing on videos. We needed to clean some different stuff. So anyway, we have been home all day, still don't plan to leave the house. And I actually was supposed to work out earlier today and didn't do that either. So I'm gonna be doing that after dinner tonight, but just, you know, we're just hanging out today. We've got the tomatoes all cut up. Those are gonna be for later. Like I said, they're for garnish. Now I'm using chicken breasts, of course, like always. Feel free to use chicken thighs. You guys know we love chicken thighs. But let me tell you, if a recipe calls for chicken in it, a lot of times I'm gonna opt for chicken breasts because we don't really like them as much. So it's almost gonna mask the chicken breasts, if that makes sense. So if there's a lot of other things in the recipe, I'll often go with chicken breasts, so that's not the main thing that you taste. I know that's weird, but we like chicken thighs better. You guys do know though, I've said it here before, that I love chicken breasts on the grill and in the air fryer actually. They're really good in the air fryer. I always trim off all the fat. I'm sorry if this is gross to you, but that's how I do. Okay, so I always like to cut mine in half to thin it out, and then I cube it or dice it or whatever it is that you want to call it. I don't want huge pieces, and if I cut it in half a bit first, it just makes it easier. Okay, so I'm just gonna cut into strips, and then we're gonna cut into bite-sized pieces. Oh, also another really great thing about this meal, I don't think I mentioned this, is that not only is it using canned tomatoes, not only is it using really good ingredients, but it is all in one pan, pot, whatever you wanna call it. I think I'm actually gonna do mine in the cast iron skillet. I'm gonna see. Yeah, I'll probably do the cast iron skillet. I'm gonna prep everything that we need before we actually head over to the stove so that by the time we get over there, it's really, everything's measured out and ready to go. We need to drain and rinse some black beans. And I have these black beans from Thrive Market. They actually came in a bag, which I thought was interesting. That's totally fine. It's really easy to store. But we are going to drain and rinse these. So I'm just running them through my little strainer. What do you call this? Strainer, colander? It's not a colander. I would call it a strainer. We're gonna run it through here and just make sure that they're completely rinsed off. And then we need to drain a can of diced tomatoes. So we don't have to rinse these, but I do wanna drain them off. And then I'm just gonna add them to the black beans because they're gonna end up going into the skillet at the same time as the black beans anyway. I also have a cup of white rice here and it's been soaking. This is just something that we do. You do not have to soak your rice, but we usually do that. So I'm gonna go ahead and rinse this off so that it's ready to go. It's just 1 cup uncooked white rice. With that drained off, everything is ready to go. Let's move over to the stovetop and it's all gonna be over there now. So the first thing we're gonna do is turn our heat. I did decide to go with the cast iron skillet, as you can see. Turn our heat to, it's kind of a medium high, and I'm gonna put some avocado oil here into the skillet. You can just use olive oil or whatever kind of oil you prefer. And then we're gonna let that heat for just a minute or two. Let's put in the chicken that we cut up. Oh yeah, that's the good sound right there. Now, while this is cooking, or before it fully cooks actually, let's spread it out as much as possible. I know we're a little crowded here, but it'll be okay. I'm gonna add in salt. I'm gonna add in salt and pepper. So that's the only thing we're seasoning our chicken with. There is some other seasoning in this recipe, but I'm just starting with salt and pepper for the chicken. We'll flip this here in just a minute to the other side, making sure that we get color on both sides. So if you cook this in 2 batches, you are gonna get better color. I think I've mentioned that a couple times here before, that overcrowding the pan, obviously you're not gonna get quite as much color on your chicken, but honestly, this is one of those that like, once everything's done, it's all right. But if you really want to get good color, that's the way to do it. Don't overcrowd the pan. Okay, we've got some pieces with decent color. I'm gonna go down to medium-low. And let's take out our chicken. And I'm just gonna set it on a plate for now. It's gonna go back in just a couple of minutes. We need to add in about another, I don't know, maybe a little less than a tablespoon or so of oil. If you use onions, this is where you want to put in the onions. Obviously, you guys know I'm skipping that, and we are going to go ahead and add in our garlic. So I'm going to do about 2 teaspoons or so. Ooh, that is popping. And the garlic really only needs to cook for just a couple of like seconds. Really, it doesn't take that long at all, like 20 seconds or so. Okay, let's stir it up. You want to make sure it doesn't burn. We gotta move a little quickly here. Actually, I'm gonna pull it off the burner for just a second while I grab my next ingredient. Should have had my rice right here, ready to go in the next step. Add in your rice, the full cup, stir that around, let it toast for like 30 seconds to a minute. And especially if you're using a cast iron skillet, your pan is still gonna be really hot. So you're gonna get a good toast on that rice. I'm telling you, if we don't make rice in our rice cooker and I make rice here on the stove, I always toast it first because it really does add this little bit of a different element of flavor to the rice, and I love it. So I just let it toast for 30 seconds, a minute, till it gets a little bit of color, which it already has a little bit just from the pan itself. We've got the drained and rinsed black beans and the drained tomatoes. Add all that in and stir it together. This part is really just a couple seconds, and we're gonna add in our spices. And I've already pre-measured our spices. I have 1 teaspoon of ground cumin, 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder, 1/2 teaspoon of chili powder, and then I added a little bit of salt in here too, especially since we drained and we rinsed those beans that are gonna have a little bit of extra sodium. I wanna make sure that we've got good flavor. Mix all of that together. It's starting to smell so good in here, oh my goodness. Now it's time to add in our broth. I have bone broth, but you can use chicken broth. This is 2.5 cups. Add in the whole thing. Just gonna cut it close. There we go. Now we need to add back in our chicken. So this is gonna be interesting because it is gonna get very full. Turn our heat up just a little bit, about to a medium, so that we can get to a simmer. Once we get to the simmer, we're gonna cover this and cook for about 20 to 25 minutes. I'm gonna set a timer for 18 minutes. Okay, we just had the 18-minute timer go off, so let's check. We do definitely need a little bit more time. The rice actually looks like it's pretty well done though. I'm gonna leave the lid off so that the rest of the liquid can evaporate out. All right, so suggestion, I would absolutely cut down on the liquid here. I'm not even sure you need a full 2 cups, to be honest, because at some point the rice is just gonna get mushy. If you're using a cup of rice like I did, you probably wanna go with maybe 1.5 cups of broth, and that should be completely fine. I have some cheddar cheese here. You can use whatever kind of cheese you want. A Mexican blend would be really good on this. We're gonna top this with cheese. Now, you can skip this part. You don't have to top this with cheese. I do feel like, you know, it's gonna add a lot of good flavor and stuff, but feel free to skip the cheese. We are also gonna take those tomatoes that we cut up, and I'm going to just top it. And this is mostly for garnish. It's gonna be really pretty. And then we're gonna add some green. You could use whatever your preference is. Cilantro is delicious. You've got green onion would be awesome. Parsley, there's plenty of options to add some green, but that just, especially the look of it, if you add a little bit of green like this to the top, it makes it so beautiful. So we've got everything on there. We're gonna put this lid on and just let that cheese melt for about 5 minutes, then we'll be ready to eat. Let's give this dish a try. I already know right off the bat, like I said before, you need less liquid. Absolutely, without a doubt. Excellent flavor. The flavor is 100% on point. I would use these exact spices in those exact amounts over again every single time. The flavor is so good. The only thing that truly that I would change is the fact that, in my opinion, the rice is a little overdone because of the amount of broth. That's the only thing. It is very good. Tonight, not only is our dinner only 5 ingredients, and it actually can be only 4 ingredients if you happen to have the right thing, but it only takes about 20 minutes to put together. So easy and so good. Feels really dark in here because at any moment the sky is going to completely open up. We've got some artichoke hearts right here. I'm only gonna be using half of this, and I'm saving the other half because I have a different recipe that I'm very excited to use these for. So we're gonna take out some. You don't necessarily have to chop these up. That's really just my preference. So if you would like to make this even easier and not even spend time with a cutting board out and everything being over on your stove, you can absolutely do that. If you already have thin chicken breasts that you are comfortable with using, go ahead and use those, and you don't even have to worry about cutting those up either. But you guys know I typically do like to cut mine in half just so that they will be a little thinner. So I'm just gonna give a rough chop here. Okay, so that's ingredient numero uno. I'm only gonna be using 2 of these chicken breasts because we're gonna cut it in half, making a total of 4 pieces. And then I will bag the other 2 in a freezer tight bag. So we have 2 ingredients here. Our third ingredient is diced tomatoes. Now, if you want to have this only be 4 ingredients, get a diced tomatoes with the Italian herbs already in it. I'm gonna be adding an ingredient to mine because I don't have a can like that, but that's how you only make this 4. I'm not counting salt and pepper or seasoning as an ingredient for the chicken, but just use salt and pepper. And then our 5th ingredient will be spinach. We're not gonna even pull that out yet because that is gonna be at the end of the recipe. All right, let's get our stove on. I'm going with a medium-high heat, and I guess for argument's sake, you could say that adding an oil to your pan would be another ingredient, but we do need something to make sure the chicken doesn't stick. I'm switching my pan, just ignore me. I don't know what I was thinking. This is not like a deep dish type of thing. All right, now we do want our pan to be nice and hot before we add in that chicken. We're gonna add a good sear to it. Okay, my pan seems to be nice and hot, so let's give this a go. Oh yeah. All right, so at this point, we're really just wanting to sear the chicken. We don't need to cook it all the way through, so I'm gonna wait until it gets a nice sear, and then we will turn that over. Oh yeah, that's good color right there. That's what we wanna see. Nice. Let that go a second more. Okay, we've got a sear on all sides now, or both sides. I'm gonna turn this down to more like a medium. Let's pour in our can of diced tomatoes. And because they didn't have the seasoning in them, we're gonna add the Italian seasoning blend here. But like I said, you can buy the can where this is already in, and then you don't even have to worry about that part. And we need to add in the artichoke hearts. And at this point, if you don't want this to be a 5 ingredient meal, feel free to add in other ingredients. So you could add in broccoli or mushrooms or Kalamata olives. I mean, whatever kind of flavors you love, add them in. If you don't like artichoke hearts, then you skip on that too. There's other ingredients that you could replace the artichoke hearts with, and you're still gonna get really good flavor. I pretty much always forget that I don't have a lid to this pan. So we're just going to loosely lay foil. You can use a baking sheet or something like that. And this is gonna cook for about 10 minutes. We'll take the lid off and then check it out. I've taken the foil off. We have about 3 minutes left on the 10-minute timer. I kind of want the sauce to reduce just a little bit, so it's a little bit thicker. So we're just going to let it continue to cook just like this. All right, time to add in our spinach. I'm actually just gonna push this to the side just a little bit so I can add that in to the sauce. Y'all, I love one-pot meals because literally while this was cooking, I cleaned up my whole kitchen. So dishes are washed. All that's gonna have to be washed is this and whatever we use with dinner. Okay, just a couple handfuls here, and then I'm going to stir this in just a bit, and I'm going to splash it all over the front of my shirt. Okay, let's put the foil back over the top just for a moment. Let that spinach wilt, and then it will be done and we will be ready to serve. Let's try this. Only took a couple of minutes. My husband is prepping the rest of our plates right now. I'm just gonna try a bit of the chicken. Oh, we also served ours over rice. That's completely optional, just as a little side dish. It's got really good flavor, especially with the addition of the artichokes in there. I do think that if you add Kalamata olives, it would be very, very good because that adds another element of saltiness. But the flavors are great. Also think, I know I say this every single time, but I do think this would be great with chicken thighs too. Don't be afraid to use that instead. So easy, 20 to 25 minutes total with everything that I did. 5 ingredients, 1 pot. Can you ask for more? We are making a 1-pot skillet lasagna. It's overall got some really good ingredients in it. I love pasta. Now, obviously, if you're not a pasta fan, this one might not be for you, but I think it's delicious and it's pretty much all over on the stovetop. And bonus, I actually already have cooked ground beef. I made a little bit too much the other day, so we get to just use the ground beef that I made up. This is gonna come together so fast. Like I said, the beef is actually already cooked. We're just gonna do a little reheat on this before we get started. I am gonna add a little bit of oregano. I think that I did add oregano when I actually made this, so I'm not adding too much. I do wanna add just a touch of pepper, and then I also thought that I got out the onion powder. Let me grab that. Just a touch, we don't need much. Also, the recipe calls for a pound of ground beef, but this is probably a little less than a pound, so I'm not concerned about it. It's gonna be fine. We'll just have a little bit less in there tonight. Now I have my own tomato sauce that I made up and just put in these cans. You don't have to do that, obviously. You can just buy tomato sauce or just add in your favorite marinara or whatever you wanna add in. I'm adding in this whole can here. I also have a 14-ounce can of diced tomatoes. I'm gonna add the whole thing in, and we're not draining these or anything, just add the can. This recipe is so easy. We need to add 2 cups of chicken broth. This is bone broth. You guys know I like to use that. All right, 2 cups. And let me just go ahead and splash myself while I'm at it. And you know what? For the other cup, we're gonna be using beef broth, which is totally fine because we have beef in there anyway. I am out of chicken broth. We need to order that. Okay, we are using bow tie noodles and I have about 8 ounces. It might be a little over 8. I just wanted to do a little more noodles since we are a little lower on the beef. And I'm gonna try and do this without splashing myself. Oh, success. Awesome. Stir all of this together. Now we need to bring this up to a simmer so that these noodles can start cooking. So I'm gonna turn my heat up and just let this rock and roll. Now, obviously, if you do not have some pre-cooked ground beef, you're gonna wanna cook that. You're gonna wanna saute a pound of ground beef and add in things like your minced garlic and your favorite spices so that you get really good flavor here. We've got the boil, so let's turn our heat down. I'm going medium-low here. Go ahead and put our lid on, and this is gonna cook for about 15 minutes or so until those noodles are nice and tender. Okay, let's take the lid off. Oh man, perfectly cooked noodles. Look at that. Ooh, that is hot. Okay, now we've got to add a couple things. I'm gonna turn my heat all the way off. I'm adding in about 2/3 cup of cottage cheese. This is a low-fat cottage cheese. You can use no fat if you want, and this is gonna finish this one off. I've also got some freshly shredded mozzarella. Let's add in I don't know, it's probably about a cup. Let's just add in this whole thing. And we'll start to stir all of that together. I think I'm out of parsley, which really stinks because y'all know this would look really pretty with some parsley on it. Okay, let's just cover this, let the cheese melt for just a minute. It's still really hot, and then we can start to serve. All right, give this a try and then serve everybody. Check out that cheese. Really good. Tastes like lasagna. I think you could even add more cottage cheese, honestly. I'm not sure I did quite 2/3 of a cup, but it tastes like lasagna, but maybe a skinnier version, sort of, to a degree. Really easy, especially because it was in one pot. I love that. You guys know I love one pot meals. Makes things so easy to clean up after dinner. I love ones that pack a punch, really good flavor. This is a great one. Our verse today comes from Hebrews 3:1. Therefore, holy brothers and sisters who share in the heavenly calling, fix your thoughts on Jesus, whom we acknowledge as our apostle and high priest. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you need more inspiration, check out the video that I have listed right above here. It's gonna give you even more inspiration and encouragement in the kitchen. I hope that you're having a great week.